Michael,
Hey Joe, how are you?
what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Yourself?
Good, good. Nice to meet you.
You as well.
Where are you
That's a cool
located?
painting.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, I that's in my wife's fifth grade classroom. Yeah. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So I am well, there's a couple ways to answer that. Currently I am sitting in Traverse City, Michigan,
Okay,
but my business is located out of Tennessee.
okay.
But my family, me and my family, we travel the country full time. We
Oh,
sold
really?
everything 15 months ago. And so we've been traveling the country full time. And I just run my business from the road. We're popping back into Tennessee here in about a month. And we'll be there for several weeks to kind of button up some things, do a few different things before we get south for the winter. Because when you can live wherever you want, you stay where it's warm when it's cold everywhere else.
Yep, that's right. Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right in the middle of the map. So, you have such an interesting story. Before we get into it, your timeline and where you're at right now, I want to know how, it's probably a little bit different for you, but how did you survive COVID? How did you get through that 3-year period? And how has it changed you now that we're kind of in that post era?
Okay. Do you want me to tell you now?
Yeah, I come
Yeah.
from jazz radio, so I just roll right into it.
Okay. Yeah. So COVID was an interesting time for me because of the fact that right before shutdowns and all of that happened, I had just left a very secure, perfect job where I was pretty much, it was the owner, one other person, and then me. I left that company because I wanted to further my career. I left that tech company, went to work for another tech company based out of Ohio. COVID hit, completely locked down, right? Business still did well because of what nature of what we did. But coming out of COVID, that company decided to completely change how they were going to grow nationwide, and the where I fit into that didn't no longer fit because they were going to have their entire executive team in Ohio. We were supposed to open up different spots all over the U.S. Now they were just going to require hire remote, and so once that was decided, I was let go because there was no need to have me down in Nashville, and that is ultimately what pushed me into opening my own marketing firm because I had ran marketing for both of those tech firms, even though that wasn't my job. I was director of sales development. Um, and, uh, and so that's what ended up pushing me into starting my own marketing firm because that's what I truly loved. So it's a very interesting situation where COVID actually, I understand the sensitivity of the topic, but I was actually ended up being a very beneficial thing for me.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a whole lot. And I'm curious to get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. One of the kids looks up at you and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would tell them that I help businesses be able to be found, liked, and trusted online.
Okay. So, what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I wanted to be an NBA star.
Okay.
In third grade. That changed a little bit long later, which I don't know if you want to touch on this, but I spent most so until I was 6 years old, I spent my life on a most of my life on a tour bus. My family and another family, a Christian singing group. When I got out of high school, I when I got out of high school, I chased a music career. I still have a music career. I'm signed to a record label, but we just don't tour anymore. I've got a new song. My band's got a new song coming out in 4 days. So NBA star specifically to answer your question, third grade. But for most of my life, I wanted to be a rock star.
So let's do get into that. Let's go back to where you were born and raised and how these seeds got in you. You're obviously very highly motivated. You come from music DNA. How did this timeline kind of become who you are today?
Okay. So you want to do that now? Sorry,
Yeah, let's just kind of we'll do the kind of the Twitter tweet, little lengthy Twitter tweet of how we kind of got to where we're at today. You touched on it, but we can kind of fill in the gaps.
yeah. So I was born in Michigan, and my family and another family were a Christian singing group, and so I remember the tour bus more than I remember our home, up until I was 6 years old. At that time, my parents felt like there's not a whole lot of money to be made trying to tour around, and not conducive. I was the youngest of three children. Good for family to be on the road, and so my parents moved out of Michigan. We moved to Florida. Um, and so for most of my school days, I got into basketball. I shot up pretty fast, tall and skinny. But I was a standout basketball player. I lettered in five different sports. I was sports. Um, but then I was 6'2" in seventh grade. But when everybody else kept growing, I stopped. I never grew past 6'2". I got, and so slowly but surely, the basketball dreams of being in the NBA started dwindling because 6'2" doesn't quite make it in the NBA. So I ended up in a situation where I filled in for a friend's band to sing because they were doing a competition and they had kicked out their singer, and I knew all the songs, and I got up in front of the crowd, and I was shaking like this trying to hold the microphone. I had to put it back on the mic stand because I was so nervous, but I loved it so much. And obviously, coming from a musical family, it just sparked that just drive to want to be a musician. And that's what I did. I started chasing a dream of being a musician, and I had a band based out of Gainesville, Florida, for many years. We did everything from playing in front of 75,000 people in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Had many labels interested in us and signing. We did about as well as you could without signing to a major label. Eventually, that band disbanded, and I started another band, and that band I still have to this day. And through all of that, what it has constantly nurtured is my creative, just personal creativity. So constantly just writing music. I would do a lot of the artwork for the flyers, and I would do the websites, and I would do album artwork and all of those types of things. And ultimately, it just fed that creativity. And I got into being more of a I was national director of business development for a couple tech firms, and did all of that. But I always had this creative sense and a drive to do something more. I always knew there was something more that I wanted to do. I wanted to make a bigger impact and leave a legacy rather than, just have my kids go through the same thing that I did. My parents grew up on a farm. They did the best they could to advance me, to give me a better life, and now I want to take that, and I want to leave my kids with wealth. I want to leave them with something where they don't have to struggle, and my grandkids don't have to struggle, right? And so ultimately, that just has led me to wanting to push and drive, to doing my own thing, which I absolutely love. I love helping people. The being in marketing helps foster a lot of that creativity that I miss from being on stage, even though we do write music and put out music. And so that's a lot of where I come from, and my background, and what kind of drives me.
So, who's been a hero for you in your life?
I would say my dad. My dad is just somebody who I grew up every Sunday we'd finish dinner and he would sit down and pay the bills. He had his routine. But the biggest thing about my dad is he's just a hard worker. He just turned 80 this year, lives in Florida, just turned 80 this year, and he's still in Florida heat going out and mowing the lawns of all like six or seven of the properties inside his neighborhood. I have to get on to him because I'm like, Dad, dude, you need to one a day, get back into the house by 10 a.m. It's way too hot for you. But that's just the way he is. He's actually beat cancer twice. And so, but he's still just got a lot of energy and just one of the hardest workers I've ever known.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Oh man. Meet anybody on the planet, spend some time with them. That's a difficult because I feel like I'm going to say something and then we're going to finish our conversation and then later on today I'm like, oh man, why didn't I say this person? Right. Believe it or not, even though I'm thinking of a million different musicians that I've never met, but unfortunately most of the ones I'm thinking of are passed away. So I'd probably say Tim Tebow.
Okay.
I grew up in Florida. I lived in Gainesville for 7 years. I'm a Gator fan, even though we lost first game of the year already. But Tim Tebow is just I think he's just one of those people that just has set such a great example for people. I admire what he does and all the work that he does. And I think he just would be a cool person to sit down and just to hang out with and just to meet him personally.
Yeah, I am amazed at how many things he has his hands in. There was my son is in the autism spectrum, and there was a dance last year at our Union Station where the NFL draft was at, and he sponsored it. His foundation sponsored it. So yeah, it's interesting. There's so many things that he's involved with. Um, so speaking of Tim Tebow, he obviously has a lot of motivation to get things done. What is that for you? What is it that gets you up in the morning? What is it that motivates you to accomplish what you want to get done?
My wife and kids. It's that's pure motivation. Just the want and the fight to make sure that I'm providing for them, um, and making sure that they have everything that they could ever want, need, and my kids to grow up and to have the ability based, the lifestyle that I'm living right now. It's funny because they still live in their little bubble where they think I'm working all the time, even though I'm like, well, we went and did a hike this day. We went and saw these waterfalls that day. We went to Cedar Point 3 days after that, but that's the biggest drive that. And I have a very strong faith. And I believe that we're all have a calling to do something more and to do more than just for ourselves. And so I've got a strong belief that of wanting to help others. Puts me in a bad spot sometimes because I offer up a lot of help and and don't charge for it, and so I got to be careful with that. Something I'm being coached and mentored on. I just love helping people, and I think that's something that we all have been called to do, and so that's a big driving for me too. I just love helping people.
What's your favorite professional success story that you've been involved with that always puts a smile on your face?
Oh, with the business I have now, or just in general?
Yeah, we'll say now if that is applicable, unless there's something that overshadows that's, you know, much bigger pie in the sky.
Yeah, biggest success story for me so far is I'd say there's a couple ways to answer this. I think the first one is I think just the fact that I took the leap of faith and jumped into starting my own business. I think that's a massive success story. And for me, I mean, anybody who decides to start their own business and takes that risk, I think that's a huge win right out of the gate. to even make the decision to do that, because it's very hard, especially with the way the world is and what is told, quote unquote, expected, right? I think the other thing for me, to not to be so philosophical with that type of thing, but the other thing for me is I started off my firm and doing a lot of just one-off services, and um, in a matter of 24 hours, due to nothing with that had to do with me, it was just circumstances with my particular clients. I lost 4 clients in 24 hours, and I had just really, I was about 6 months into my business, and it was just devastating. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue, because that's a huge hit in revenue. And from there, I basically reinvented and kind of started a relaunch of what I was doing and how I was going to help small businesses, small and medium sized businesses. And very quickly, I recovered to the point where in January of this year, um, I signed 8 new clients in the very first week of January. And so to go from starting my business to, I might be one of those standard stats, put a number on me. I went out of business within, first 2 years, to now I'm continuously growing and moving forward, and have a lot of things that are on the horizon, which I'm really excited for.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You ran into a much younger version of you, a 20-year-old version of you. You could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained so far in your life. What would you tell that young version of you?
Don't waste time. Don't waste time with non-meaningful things. And there's so much time that I wasted in my life. I'll be 50 this month. Um, and I still feel like I'm kind of just getting started. My business, I've been in business for just under 3 years, and I feel like I'm just getting started, and a lot of that was just wasted time. I loved, definitely not wasted time and chasing my dream of being a rock star, but there was a lot of so much time that I could have been doing other things while I was doing that as well. Um, so I feel like that, and wasted time as well, as far as um, not spending more time with the people I care about, uh, friends that are no longer here, have passed away, and it's like, man, I wish I could go back, and that one time when we could have hung out and I could have spent meaningful time with that person. I wish I would have done that rather than doing something that I have, brought nothing to my life.
Yeah. So if you could see any event that happened in human history with your own eyes, what would you have loved to have witnessed firsthand?
Oh, golly, man, you're coming strong with the questions. Any event. Oh man, I'm not sure on that one. My brain goes all over the place. I'm very bad at choosing like just one thing with stuff.
Well,
Um,
let's do this. Since you were a basketball fan, let's go into the
yeah.
NBA. What would you love to have seen firsthand, NBA wise?
Oh, I would have loved to have seen one of the NBA championships from the Bulls in
Yeah.
Jordan.
Oh yeah.
Probably the sixth one probably would have been a really cool one to see. Just being able, knowing that I was going back, and then knowing that that was going to be the last one. That was the what's the special that they had to come,
The Last Dance.
the last dance. Yeah,
Yeah.
like knowing that that was going to happen, and everything, that would have been pretty special. I was
Yeah.
I was a pretty big Jordan fan growing up.
Yeah, for sure. So everyone has a perception of you out there, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a very giving, um, caring person that that has a lot left to accomplish in life, and I think I'm very driven to make sure that I do that.
So, Michael, if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, your music, anything pertaining to your world, where can they go?
perceptioncontentmedia.com. If they go to perceptioncontentmedia.com, that's going to be the website for my business. But if you go on, as of right now, if you go on to the About page, you can see some more stuff about my background, as far as if you wanted to look up any of the music things and different movies and soundtracks that we've been involved with. But yeah, perceptioncontentmedia.com.
Right on. Michael, this has been great. Thank you for opening up. Thanks for your story, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Best of luck.